Serious, what's the hardest thing about moving out of home? Paying for everything on your own. There's nothing quite like the shock of going to buy stuff at Target or wherever when you first move out and you spend $100 on basic stuff like dishwasher tablets, trash bags, detergent, light bulbs, and just boring stuff. When I was a teen, $100 was so much money and lasted me a long time. I learned right quick that it's easy to save when you don't actually have to buy all the stuff to run a household. That's so true. I literally get shocked every time I go shopping for these things, and especially food. At least in Norway, food is expensive. The pricing of food has changed so much. 20 years ago, going out to eat was a luxury. You could go to the store and buy enough food for a month, and it was cheaper than going out to eat each day. Now, buying anything but fast food or cheap overly processed garbage is a luxury. In my area, it is cheaper to eat 3 meals off of the McDonald's dollar menu than it is to buy enough fresh foods for 3 meals a day. Getting the flu, and no one's around to take pity or make you soup. This is especially true when you move far from home. Being sick and alone is the worst. If I'm sick, I want to be alone. Please leave me be while I'm miserable in bed for a couple of days. There's a huge mental difference between being alone because you choose to be, but you know that someone would be able to come to you if you needed, wanted, and being alone because you don't know anyone in a 500-kilometer radius. But who makes you soup? When I'm sick, I just want someone to make me soup. This may just be me, but it's waiting 2 or more weeks for internet in the house. Took Vodafone a month to understand I didn't need help plugging my router into the wall plug, but someone to wire my apartment to the switch box in the cellar. This still happens. Where I'm from, our ISP has brick and mortar kiosks where you can pick up a modem, then just plug it in and call them to activate. I didn't even need to call ahead at all for internet. The internet provider came the day after we moved in. We in fact based our move-in date around this. My BF is a system engineer, so it was the most important thing. If you're moving to a new area, finding a new and good doctor, dentist, hairdresser, etc. is ridiculous. I probably will still be around my parents' house when I move out, so hopefully I can stick with the same. Moved about 1.5 hours from my parents. I refused to find a new hair person and would visit for a weekend and get my hair done. Just had to plan it fairly far in advance due to needing a Saturday and preferring a morning, so I had most of my day left. Yeah, I'm really in need of a haircut. It's super easy when you can't afford any of those things, so you just don't have them. Realizing you should have done it way sooner. This is the truth right here. I didn't move out until last year at age 25. I wish now that I did it earlier, as it now feels like life only just started. Try 32. I feel like I've lost a lot of time. This is what I'm currently struggling with. Recently 24. Didn't have a job when I graduated school, so I moved back in with my parents. We live in a high cost of living area. I currently out 37% if my salary to retirement. If I were to move out, that number would be a fraction of what it is. I also save almost all the rest of it that's not gone to taxes. I basically get to be an adult and treat money like I did as a kid. But I wanna move out and the freedom of it. It's just tough to give up a 25-minute reverse commute, which is solid in the area and near free living conditions. I'd be spending $20k plus per year to not live with my parents. I just can't justify it to myself. I wish it was cheaper. Constant worry about bills. When you're a kid, the mortgage magically gets paid, the lights magically stay on, food magically shows up in the fridge, etc. All with zero effort on your part. Then you get your first place and the worry starts. What you have to learn is budgeting. When I moved away to study, sometimes a large annual bill could really put me on the edge for a month or so. Then I started budgeting, and now still studying and only working part-time. Bills are something that happens in the background and is already taken care of. Brief plug here, there's a site and app called Inab, short for You Need a Budget, that is magical for this sort of thing. Most personal finance budgeting tools like Mint are active in that you track money you've already spent. But an app forces you to be proactive. You start only with the money you have on your accounts, then decide exactly where that money needs to go before you get paid again. Visit our app if you're curious. When your parents still act like you live with them and need to check up on you 23x a day. I realize that is a privileged sounding complaint, but when you finally move out from a home with helicopter controlling parents, it's really anxiety inducing to feel like if you don't respond to a phone call or text immediately they will call everyone you know, and 911 exaggerating, but also kinda not. My parents did not treat me like I was a grown adult who had a job and paid her own bills after I moved out for a long time. It was somewhat okay when I moved out until I got the cat, but it got really bad when I moved in with my partner. For a few months, my mom would call me twice a week or so and repeatedly remind me that I always had a place at home and that I could come back if I wasn't happy with my partner. It was an experience. My cat would hide under the couch if I picked up the phone and she heard any Russian at all. Yes, I feel this. Especially because also my parents are selectively conservative Christians. I moved out alone for the first year and a half or two, but they literally got upset at my partner staying the night at my house and all of that, and would drive by and see if his car was their overpass. When I left my childhood home, the hardest part was knowing my childhood room was gone, and I could never go back to a place that I considered a sanctuary and safe place for my whole life up to that point. Dang, I'm seeing a lot people share similar situations, but I'm super duper lucky that my childhood home was also my father's childhood home, and we own all the property it's on, and my parents and all the siblings, all 8 of us, plan to keep it in the family for as long as we can, and I hope one day when I have kids of my own they will have the opportunity to grow up in the same house I did and that my father did. I moved a couple states away from my childhood home. After I moved, my parents sold the house I grew up in, and it crushed me to know I will never be able to go in the house and give it a proper goodbye. It feels so silly, but I wish I could go back. My parents are selling my childhood home at the moment and it feels very sad. It makes sense, all the kids are gone, and they don't need the space anymore, but it still feels sad to think you can't go back. It's hard to imagine the holidays being the same either. You have to buy food to put in the fridge and budget so you can pay the bills, meaning you can't buy nice things for yourself or go out with friends all the time. Or the opposite, having the money but not having any friends to do fun stuff with, and therefore not having any motivation to do anything at all. Or having high bills and low wage, so spending all your time working to pay bills and losing all your friends because you don't have time to hang out with them. You live in a constant state of exhaustion from working and are still barely holding your head above water. I mean, having to do all the chores yourself or having to buy furniture, household items. Certainly not that depressing stuff above that doesn't happen to anyone at all. I'm both. No money and no friends. Sometime I just want to go back home. I'm leading myself into this position. Thanks for the foresight. Coming up with things to eat other than pasta and ham sandwiches. Takes me back to being 19, working 3 jobs. One meal from the IHOP I worked at and the other one was rice or cereal if it was the first week after getting paid. Figuring out how to feed myself 3 times every single day and trying to be healthy about it. Check out our Eat Cheap and Healthy. They have some good ideas for making a lot of food with not a lot of budget. Realizing that I had to create my own comfort out in the real world. Growing up, I would come home and smell whatever wonderful thing my mom had cooked, and it was fantastic. At the time, I didn't know that it made me feel anything other than excited for food, but now I recognize that it made me feel secure to know I could come back to that. I've tried countless ways of attempting to recreate those feelings, but usually I'm interrupted by some depressing adult matter just before I put the noodles on. This hit really close to home. It's not quite the same, but I get some nostalgic high by trying to recreate that feeling for husband and roommates. Somehow though, even if I became a world-renowned chef, nothing can touch a mom's cooking. Coming home to a crock-pot meal is the closest thing to that feeling, and they are generally really easy to throw together. Alternatively, throw something in the oven, go for a short walk outside in the neighborhood, then come back to your finished meal. Realizing just how much your parents actually did for you. There's so much they do that you probably aren't aware of until you're in your own place and having to do it all for yourself. For me, one of the hardest things has been to keep on top of the food in the fridge and eat it before it goes out of date. Parents planned meals and make sure nothing is wasted. Need to plan things in advance that you would never have thought about before. One of the hardest things has been to keep on top of the food in the fridge and eat it before it goes out of date. Have one night a week where your lunch dinner is made up entirely of things that are about to go off past their use by date in a few days. Sorting out bills, it was the bane of my life. Electric, gas, water, internet, council tax, every single one was a struggle, and it takes effort to keep on top of it all. I recommend a separate bank account for bills that you transfer money into each paycheck to keep it organized. Why is it so complicated? You said council tax, so I'm guessing UK. My electric gas are one bill, utilities, internet is another bill, and rent is another bill. All automatically paid except for utilities. Get an email notification for each. Pretty easy to sort out. Going back for visits and staying over. Quickly get used to doing your own thing, and if you want bacon at 4 AM you can have bacon at 4 AM. Going home and still get treated as a kid. What's wrong with 4 AM bacon? Plus there's no bacon, someone already ate it. This was my biggest problem, going home in the holidays and lack of food. I left my hometown over 25 years ago now. I still hate visiting home. One Christmas my mother had given away all the chocolate in the house because she couldn't eat it all, so we weren't allowed any. Plus there's no bacon, someone already ate it. This is the opposite of my experience going home. There is always so much food at my parents' house. It's amazing. Plus I live 5,000 miles away on a different continent, so my mum will happily make me whatever I want and take care of me like I'm a kid again. It's amazing. Plus she has insomnia, so she would be right there to make me 4 AM bacon. I want to go home now. Last time, I asked if she had any scones. She didn't, but immediately offered to bake me some. Realizing that you're the someone who has to do whatever, be it buy groceries, change a light bulb, do laundry etc. You've no backup. You're it. Furnishing your own place. Then keeping said place clean. That you are the adult now. There's no one who makes dinner for you. There's nothing in the refrigerator if you don't go shop yourself. No one cleans the house. And no one takes care of you and bring you food and drinks when you're sick. You are the adult and you need to act like one, pay your bills etc. Otherwise there's no dinner, no light, no Wi-Fi, nothing. The sick thing is a fear for me. My least favorite normal thing in the world is projectile vomiting all alone. For me it was making enough money at 18 to make ends meet, but it was a lot easier in the late 90s. I was making $13 an hour in $2019, but my rent was $295 in $2019 with only one roommate, and in it a British Rail. There were times I was only making minimum wage part-time and that was still enough to get by. That's somewhat impossible now. Damn right about that. I have friends making 60, 70k that have roommates. Depending where you live, that salary doesn't go far. I'm in that pay range and have never had my own place. Finding a one breeding co for $1k month is unrealistic. It's probably going to be $1,200 $1,300 plus. Add on utilities and you're easily looking at $1,500 a month. That's nearly 40% of my take-home pay. Avoiding moving in with manipulative unstable roommates. Having to move back in again. It's you against your brain. You're by yourself. You're on your own in all things, no one's going to do it for you. From bill paying to cooking to laundry, it's up to you. Doing laundry was the shocker for me. So much laundry. It's a never-ending chore. For me it was dishes. My boyfriend and I seem to go through an insane amount of dishes every day, and even with a dishwasher it is a huge chunk of my day to wash everything that doesn't fit or can't go in the dishwasher. There are only 4 or 5 things that can't go through the dishwasher, but we seem to use all of them all the time. My boyfriend refuses to wash anything by hand, so it is entirely my problem. I'm not the only one with a boyfriend like this then. For mine it's a sensory thing. He can't deal with touching things with wet hands. To make up for me washing everything by hand, I make him do all the drying and putting away, and has always in charge of the bins. I have the same issue. I find rubber gloves are a lifesaver. Maintaining strong relationships with family still living at home. Coming home tired from work and not wanting to answer the phone to an hour-to-hour conversation means that the relationship will inevitably suffer. It's much better to pick up and let them know you're exhausted so can't chat for long. You've kept up the relationship and it never is as bad as you think. For me it has always been the cost of cheese. It's expensive and we go through so much. I was told beforehand cheese is worth its weight in gold, and I have to say, not wrong. Leaving my dog, because my new place doesn't allow pets. For me, it was the action of moving out. I was afraid that I couldn't make it, that I'll want to move back in with my parents, or that I wasn't going to like my roommates, etc. But when it came time, and I did the move with the help of my family, I came to enjoy my privacy, my independence, and living out away from my family made me a lot more mature and open to explore. Trust me, you won't have it all figured out, but when rubber meets the road you will have an adventure waiting for you.